Perfect. All right, everybody, welcome to another Syndicate Talks, and this one is Conquer Marketing, Q&A from the experts. Now, from the 7 years I have spent as a business coach, I tend to get asked the same universal questions by business owners all the time. They revolve around cash flow and finances, having feast or famine, sales and marketing cycles, hiring effectiveness when it comes to business owners. So a Syndicate Talks has been a way for the head shed, the intellectual trust that happens inside of Syndicate to share, in many instances, years and years of experience on the topics that are universal, that are trouble points, problem points, or challenges that business owners face time and time again, regardless of whether businesses are advancing or not. And because of those, Ali, good to have you, brother. Nice to see you.
Yes.
So for this one today, this is about those most common pressing questions that come in when it comes to marketing and businesses, and particularly small to medium businesses. In other words, when I start out just as me, when my business begins to grow and I have a few employees, or when business has accelerated and I might have tens, dozens, maybe even hundreds of employees, we have these same universal questions and they just evolve and grow as our business does. For marketing, it is one of those universal truths that businesses must market. They must spend time, and in a very real sense, marketing is about your business talking about itself when you're not in the room or whenever you're not responsible for sales. It is easier for me to devolve to sales than it is to spend time investing in marketing, because sales means, in a very real sense, I might get paid now or tomorrow or next week. Marketing is an investment that doesn't have a payoff for 30, 60, 90, 180, 365 days, depending on what your business is doing. So for us to invest intelligently in marketing means we have to understand some basic tools, some basic truths. We have had some of those presented in previous Syndicate Talks. There is a great deal of education, insight, and recommendation. Of course, there are always resources to be had out in the marketplace. But as business owners, we tend to hear and see the same questions over and over again. So for us today on this call, we have Ali Salman with Rapid Boost Marketing, of course, my partner in crime when it comes to Syndicate. We have Ben Arledge, our other partner inside of Syndicate as well, and Ben has spent years working on the technology side, and Scott Gerace, who is an absolute master when it comes to particularly certain platforms, Facebook, and how to leverage that for intellectual capital properties. In other words, businesses that traditionally have longer sales cycles might have an immediate need, but otherwise takes a lot of time and resources to foster. So for everybody on our call today, thank you for joining us and spending time on a Tuesday afternoon. For everybody that's joined us, welcome to it. And for my panel guys, thanks for coming on, and let's dive straight in. First of all, marketing, and particularly social media marketing. Why is it so terrifying all the time for people to get started? And what is going to be the one thing that people should do at the very beginning? In other words, to get them started. So Scott, Ben, Ali, the floor is yours. Why is it so terrifying, and what do we really need to do to get started in social media marketing?
I think it's terrifying because there's so much going on at once that people have a really hard time nailing down where they should start. Am I wrong with anybody else? And yeah, like it's not easy. It's a giant mountain, and it takes a long time to kind of get a lot of the philosophies, and it's one of those things where you could study for years and be taught something new next week, right? And I think that's something that people should understand first, is putting this huge amount of pressure on yourself to understand this juggernaut, and then there's like three other juggernauts, and then smaller juggernauts underneath them, and trying to get that all at once is very difficult. And I'm finding a lot of people are really, really stressing out about it. And just here to say it's okay. Like, you kind of have to crawl before you can walk, and then run, and so forth. So pick something that you want to focus on in the beginning, and kind of work out from there. If you're trying to manage Facebook and Instagram and do YouTube channels all at the same time, you may be spreading yourself too thin, and really maybe just starting out with a Facebook, social media to start as an anchor, and then work your way out from there is a little bit better of a tactic. Feel like you've kind of mastered your Facebook channel, and then move to Instagram, and then move to Pinterest, and then move to all these other things before you overwhelm yourself with everything.
Okay. Ben, thoughts?
Yeah, it's a bit of a fire hose when you look at all the stuff being generated by everyone else, and it's a little intimidating. So, my advice there would be to just find a brand that you really like and admire. Doesn't even have to be the same industry, but something that kind of resonates with you, and imitate a little bit. That's going to be your brand that you're working on. You want to project what resonates with you. Um, and it's easy to pick up on a company that's putting out content regularly and being able to kind of follow their patterns, kind of mimic what they're doing will give you a little bit of a head start.
Ali?
So, like, social media marketing, when it comes to that, there is so much information out there, but there is still yet thirst for knowledge. Um, Most of us, we are not patient and we are not freaking consistent. Show up for next 6 months, right? First of all, the more you're going to practice, the better you're going to get. We don't do that. We don't show up every day. We don't create content. We are not consistent. So a lot of it is habitual and lack of consistency. And of course, then all the other elements come into play, that like, well, what kind of content should I post? What time should I post, right? So a lot of micros, right? A lot of things, as you start playing the game, you start understanding them, but you cannot just think about those macros and forget about the big picture here, because big picture is about showing up every day. And if you're consistent 30, 60, 90 days, even if you suck with your content, you will see that your numbers will go up.
Mm-hmm. Great one. So if we had to take that and extend it one thought further, how long do I start with? And this is a layup for all three of you guys. How long do I have to start with before I just say, that's it, give up? Should I only invest 30 days and quit? Should I invest 45 days, 60 days? Should I try it for 6 months? How long do I go before I give up, or is that not the answer?
It's a way of life.
Yeah, it's like going to the gym, right? I mean, you got to stick with it. It's a long game. It's just a habit you got to form.
So let's put things into perspective. Who is the best athlete in the world in any game? Ask them and tell them how many hours are they practicing. How can we even imagine that we cannot practice? We have to practice them as long as we are in this game, right? Okay, so the idea is that you can never give up. It's not about giving up. It's about being consistent, because if you want to be the best in the game, in your industry, in your niche, in your whatever content you generate in your industry, how you we like to be known, personal brand, business brand, but it's about sticking to it, because there's definitely benefits to be had. But it because it's a long-term game, so you cannot, it's like business, right? When we start business, first year, second year, it's always hard. But as we get into it, right, we gain more momentum, we gain more pace, right? That gives us unfair advantage over time and more leverage.
So I'm not supposed to consider, and the analogy is going around here right now. Ashley just commented, it's like going to the gym. Maybe that's why I have so many areas to improve on with social media. Great little point. So we're saying that just one workout's not going to do it. I mean, we got Randy on the call, and Randy's an ex-Eskimo, and we had an event on the weekend where we had an ex-Olympic level athlete. And so what you're telling me is that I can't just do it one time and give up. And if I don't see a result as soon as I do it the very first time, I might have to stick with it a little bit, even though I'm not seeing any results at all. Yeah?
Yeah, I think the other thing is, if we're using the gym analogy for this, you should find things that you enjoy. Is it easier for you to go to the gym and lift weights, or do you find, an activity is something that you prefer to stay healthy? Well, it's kind of the same thing. Do you like making videos about gardening, or, are you really about making, picture posts with, all sorts of graphics and stuff involved in it? Find the thing that you kind of enjoy the most out of it, and it makes it a little bit easier to find the motivation too, right? Like maybe you just really are a fan of funny memes and looking through funny memes. Well, there's nothing wrong with, storing a couple of those to the side and sharing those with the people that are in your audience. Because if you think they're funny, they'll probably think they're funny too.
Okay, so let's stick on that theme for a moment, because we have got a lot of stuff. Like when I get a chance to talk to business owners, I try and simplify it, and I'll say, okay, there's video, there's something with a picture, and then there's a written word. And yes, there's lots of combinations, but you're either going to write something, you're going to put a picture up, or you're going to put a video up. Where do people start? And Scott, I think you've just nailed something there. Stick with something that you like, but okay, then how is that going to be relevant for my business? Because I've heard any number of times, how am I going to take X business or X industry or X style and translate that to money? And people are always immediately equating the behavior has to come out to getting paid now or tomorrow or whatever it is. So what would be a great format? What should we pick as stuff to do first? Did I stump the pog? Let's
in a big scheme of things, there are two ways, right? One is pay to play. You can from the first day spend $5 on ads and get started, get some momentum going. You don't need to create content. Don't worry about creating content. You don't have time, whatever that reason is. Okay, so that's one way to get started right away. And that's where, of course, when you're spending $3, $5, $10 on ads, just make sure you know what you're doing, right? Okay, so you get, if it's Facebook and Instagram is an amazing way to do lead generation and demand generation, 30 days, 60 days demand generation through ads. So that's one way. The other way is the content generation, right? So the content generation, I would pick up a topic, I would pick up frequency, and I would freaking start. That's it, right? Yeah, I will talk about trucks. I'm going to show up every Monday. Okay, perfect. Now show up for them next 12 Mondays, right? And that's how the momentum will come. And that's, I think, the best way to start in a very layman terms.
There we go. A great question here. Do you need to create content for the ads, or are they built differently?
There's a specific format for ads, dimensions. If you're using an app like Canva, you can export directly to a Facebook ad size so that you're optimizing your space there. And you can just build your ad right in Canva too. So using that will give you the right dimensions, give you everything you need to put up your ad.
Okay, that's a really great point, because we've Scott, I'll let you jump in a moment. I can create something. Now, are we subject to, and going back to what Scott said, are we subject to having to make everything we use? Can we repurpose, or can we use tools? Now, it'd be best, my forward answer is to say all three, but where should somebody start? We've heard find something that you like. We've heard a tool like Canva. We've heard that we can get started and pay. So I'm sitting here right now going, I've got this. What the hell should I do for my business right now? Because I go on Facebook to talk to my mom. I go on Instagram to stare at cat videos. I go on LinkedIn to pretend I'm making connections for business. Where do I even start? What should I be doing?
Well,
let's give them a course of action. And if all three of you give them a different course of action, that's okay, because it could be each to each person.
Well, yeah, this kind of it feeds into it. Like each social media platform has its own free tutorial courses that'll kind of give you, your feet in the water. Of course, there's things like Udemy and Masterclass, and they're really more in-depth types of course structures to take. But each one of these, like Facebook has Facebook Blueprint, and Google has Google Business and Google Analytics, and a couple other facets for YouTube and stuff like that. And knowing the type, like what Ben was saying, the type of like picture that's acceptable, like Facebook versus Instagram, is important. And, by taking it in your own hands and educating yourself a little bit, you'll, feel a lot easier when you start taking, courses on things like Canva and, other programs, because that Facebook needs it to be like this, but if you want to use it for Instagram, I'm going to have to reformat it for this. And if it needs to go to YouTube, it has to be reformatted like this. And, this is totally more than what I was saying in the beginning when I was like, pick one thing at a time. But if you're at the point where you're like, dabbling in all the social media, pools, it's a really strong tool to make you feel confident about some of the choices you're making. And even if you're hiring somebody to do this for you, it gives you a little bit of knowledge to have conversations with them, so you understand what they're talking to you about. Because that's kind of frustrating on my end a little bit, dealing with some people that just don't want to get it. And to me, when I talk to them, it's one of those things where it's like, well, you don't want to get it because you kind of don't maybe care really. Like, this is something that you have to do to grow your business, but you're not willing to really put anything like zero into it at all. So if you took like the basic, most, introductory tutorial on, hey, this is, Facebook, it would probably really help you out a lot and save you money when you're dealing with marketers and things like that.
Okay. Ben, Ali, thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, you use a software tool like Canva, and it's going to give you some time-saving stuff. They got so many things built in there. I think having those resources at hand is just going to expedite your learning curve there. You don't have to put as much thought into it. You can use a template, edit the words a little bit. There's pre-built templates right there. So there's really minimal effort to really jump in there, add some text that's relevant to your business, and then download it, post it.
Let me give you guys a format to work with, and let's stretch it out from here. So again, I'll go back to trying to build a real basic framework for people. We've got the person, so the individual involved. Most people, it's going to be us to start with, unless we're going to invest time and money into a marketing partner, right? Then there's going to be the thing that we're going to do, and we're going to call it the way we're going to do it. On Facebook, I'm going to have a certain process or a certain way to do it. On Instagram, I'm going to have a certain process or a way to do it. LinkedIn, I'm going to have a certain process or way to do it. Twitter, I'm going to have a certain process or way to do it. And then there's going to be the tools. So can each of you give me a people process tool? And it could be the same. Okay, for yourself, I'm going to do myself. So it's going to be me. I'm going to be the guy doing all my marketing. Okay, I'm not going to bother doing anything else. I'm going to hang my hat like I am now an awful lot on YouTube because I like doing video. And to do video an awful lot, I'm going to come up with some themes. So I've got a theme like 2-minute business coach, where I'm going to teach a basic business lesson in 2 minutes or less. Also, we're going to have these syndicate events, and those syndicate events are going to publish, perhaps one a week or whatever it is. But we're going to do 2 or 3 or 4 of them a month, and that's going to build the library, and that's going to spread a bunch of stuff. And the tools. So I'm going to use my phone. I'm going to use a really simple video editing app like Splice to put stuff together. And I'm going to use Canva because I have to create thumbnails. In other words, the pretty picture that fits the format size for a YouTube video. And each one of these are going to have the same basic theme and idea. So I'm just going to change the color on it, change the title for whatever my new theme is. And so now I'm going to upload a video to YouTube. I'm going to put a thumbnail and I'm going to write a basic descriptor. And then for all of my other marketing, I'm going to take that video from YouTube and share it on Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn and Twitter, etc., and use that to create the content that goes out. So using that kind of format or idea, can you guys give me who should do it, where should they do it, or how should they do it, and what tool would be a great place for them to start?
You want YouTube?
Go for it.
Yeah, okay. So to start with YouTube, I guess I try to always use information and relate it back to something that I know, right? And I look at creating video series with YouTube as kind of like writing an essay. There's, the beginning paragraph, it opens up your introductory to your whole video series. And then after that, varying, you could make, 5-minute videos, you can make 20-minute videos, half an hour videos, but the formula is realistically the same. You like say in argument, we have 6 videos in our series. We start out with our introductory. Then we have 4 videos in the middle that create, our content for what we're trying to, get across. Maybe your business does a few different kind of things. So we use each video to highlight one of those individual tasks that we do. We create a series out of it, and then at the very end, we create a closing, statement or argument or video. And in that is where we create our links to take us back to our other social media platforms. So in theory, YouTube will tell your audience that this 6-video series, it goes in a particular order because, you've kind of made it that way. So, YouTube's not going to theoretically jump you around. They could, because weird things happen at YouTube. But that itself is the formula for laying out like a video series. And it doesn't have to be 6. It could be 10, 12, 25, however, like maybe at a certain point it does get lengthy, but as long as you're starting and finishing, and then create another series with a start and a finish. And that's a basic way to break it down. Now, the tools that I would use for this, my phone is great. We have a $10,000 camera, and at the end of the day, our phone takes almost as good a video and pictures as our $10,000 Canon, right? So it's such an amazing tool from where it started to where it is now. Because of course, back in the day they were giant bricks, and now they're like a media thing, and they're probably not even really a phone anymore because people probably use them for more than just that, right? Now, this is something that's a preference with everybody. Find an editing software that you like. I use DaVinci Resolve. Basic is free, and it has a lot of really good tools in it without paying for Pro. Ali probably uses something different, and Ben could use something different. And there's there's Adobe and a lot of good programs out there. And that just happens to be the one that I've learned. And going back to what I was saying before, to learn DaVinci, I had to take a whole bunch of tutorials to learn the basics of what I wanted to do with that. But it doesn't have to be as scary as, oh my God, I have to take like hours and hours of tutorials. You can look up in YouTube, how do you do cut editing in DaVinci Resolve? And there's probably going to be like a 5-minute video for that. So depending on how I feel, for my intro videos and my logo, like intro before the video starts, I may hire that out, or I may do it myself, but it all depends on how much time I have and what I need. So that tool for hiring people out that I use is Fiverr, but be warned, you have to use vetted people on Fiverr.
Okay, cool. Ali?
So, the first thing is that put together a content calendar. Okay, in the month, this is when I'm going to create the content. Second thing, generally, what I would say is, see, if you repurpose the content well, then your content travels further. So, example is, if you create a video, turn that video, 5-minute video, into 5 Instagram posts of 1 minutes. Okay. Similarly, turn that video into Twitter updates. Okay. Similarly, take that same video into your Facebook 2 or 3 more updates, right? So, and inside that video, find that really powerful 15-20 seconds, which you want to turn into stories. So you have one content which is getting chopped up into so many areas. So you're not recreating a lot of the time. A lot of us, what we go through is we recreate the same content when we actually sitting on our existing content because we haven't repurposed it and structured it properly, right? Last thing, when it comes to tools, I'm with Scott. Your phone is your best friend. Pick it up for your videos. You don't need a fancy camera. And personally, it's go to Fiverr. For $5, you can get a video edited. So seriously, if you are trying to learn a new software, personally, I wouldn't, because then I'm sitting there for an hour and I'm worth more than $5 or $10. So generally what I do is I would just outsource it cheaper at Fiverr. Locally here, it will of course cost you a little bit more, but end of the day, create content, create it consistently. And yes, right, if you cannot figure out the editing part, give it to someone. If you cannot figure out the scheduling part, give it to someone. And nowadays the resources are so cheap that you can get $100, $200, $300 too, can go pretty far. So yeah.
Ben, anything to add, or can we switch over?
Yeah, we can switch over. I'm still new to the video game, so Scott and Ali, those are the experts. I think that's great advice there.
So a great question coming in from Mike on here, and that's going to segue into our next one. And he's asking deliberately about LinkedIn, so I'm going to ask about the major platforms in a moment. What are your thoughts for posting on LinkedIn with pure written word in a post versus video photos?
So
just the words or the pretty pictures in the videos? What would be a thought or a theory?
So I'm just sharing this screen. I was doing this LinkedIn training today. On LinkedIn, emotional storytelling, and like if you actually, because when you go through the post, right, there is quite a bit of visual content as well. So what I like, and I've seen and I've picked up that if you test it out with the storytelling and being a little bit emotional and vulnerable, that tends to do really well, and you don't need any visual content. Where also on the other side too, video tends to do really well as well. I'm not saying it doesn't, but you should mix it up and also have just text-based posts like these two, and you can follow some sort of a framework like this as well.
Outstanding. So if we're going to pick a handful of social media platforms and we're going to say we can only use one of them right now. So I'm going to give you guys a list: Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter. They're the big five. Yes, there are more. There's Pinterest, and there's lots of others that we can leverage. Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter. What would be your down and dirty guide to each one of these real quick? What would you do? You had to pick up your phone today, and it's like in the next 30 days, you can only hang your hat on one of them. And then after 30 days, you could switch to another. What would you do and how would you get started?
It depends on your demographic first, right? Like certain communities live in different social media networks. So, teenage girls like Instagram. If that's, your demographic, your marketing, I don't know, lip gloss or something like that, you're probably going to want to live on Instagram. Business people live in LinkedIn. The middle-aged man lives on Facebook. It depends on your demographic. So my go-to though usually would be Facebook to start, because it's for me, the way that I looked at it, it's where all your customers are. There's not a person out there that doesn't have a Facebook account, where there are people out there that don't have LinkedIn, they don't have YouTube, they don't have Twitter or Twitch or all these things. But the one thing that I think you can guarantee at the end of the day is almost everybody has a Facebook account.
Okay. So if you had to start on Facebook today, that was it. That was the only place you're going to hang your hat for the next 30 days. What would you do?
The first thing I would do is, like you said, there's so much involved in identifying your demographic, like who you're truly going after. I would try to find related posts, like say posts or information that I could use to share with my community to say, hey, I'm out here. Here's something of interest that I can share with you. Maybe something factual, maybe something a little humorous, maybe I show you my ask every once in a while too. And with this blend of things, you'll build a social media platform. Because, frankly, and I've been telling a lot of people this lately, no matter what you do and how passionate you are about it, most people aren't concerned about what you do until they need you. Nobody, for Ashley, right? Nobody needs HR people until they're in trouble usually. and then I'm sure they call you, and then it ends up costing them quite a bit more because there's a lot of preemptive stuff they could have done. Well, this is kind of the same thing, right? So if you want to grow organically, you have to, gain interest in your audience, and what might that be? A couple of weeks ago, we shared a post, and it was the multiple faces of Ross. It was right at the beginning of COVID. And it was like, how out of 1 to 10, what type of Ross do you feel like from friends? And this post was shared over 100,000 times, and we put no money into that at all. Actually, I think it was over 300,000 times, but we, and that is just brand extension, right? Like those people see us once, and then maybe we'll put out another post sometime this week, tomorrow, next week, and they see that again. And the more frequent that they see this stuff, the more that when a problem arises, like say they need a plumber or something, they're going to say, oh, well, the plumber that posted the funny pictures, he's an Oilers fan who did this and this and that. We need somebody's help. Oh, that guy, I've seen that guy on my Instagram feed for months now. And yeah, he's the first person coming to the top of my mind. Let's contact him. It's maybe the only thing you can do without dumping tons of money into Google AdWords, because to show up top ranking into that it's expensive. People in every industry have, there's big dogs in every industry, and they're going to dump tons of money into it. And in my mind, Facebook is a platform that levels the playing field too. You can test and measure your ads or your marketing and, find out what works for you. And you're going to use the same platform that they are, with the same tactic they are, and they can get to the same audience that you can with the same manner, right? Like one of my e-commerce stores, we sell bikinis. We get in the same conversations in Facebook with other bigger brands that we would never get into that conversation in Google, just paying for AdWords. So that, yeah, Facebook is kind of my go-to.
Ali or Ben?
I would, Scott nailed it. Go where your audience is, not what you like, because it doesn't matter if you like to hang out on Instagram, but if your audience is on let's say TikTok or in LinkedIn, that's where your focus is. So personally, what I would do, because I'm in B2B, I would pick up LinkedIn, based on definitely the numbers. Then what I would do is second step, what I would take is on LinkedIn, once I decided on the platform, I would do some audience research, definitely what Scott mentioned. One good thing about LinkedIn is if you want to go after, let's say, law firms in Edmonton, that literally within minutes, you can find out there are 200 of them and who is the managing partner there. So it's so freaking easy to get to the right people. Then what I would do is I would do some content research on LinkedIn. I would go at the top, there's a LinkedIn search bar, and I would search for, let's say, I'm a roofing guy. What people are talking about roofing? What other people are posting about roofing? Okay, get a bit of an idea. See which are the most engaged posts. Let's say if you're a roofer, which are the most engaged posts when it comes to roofing, right? Now, another strategy, what Scott mentioned, is you can curate other people's content too. This is also really good. Sometimes you can take someone else's content, as long as you give them attribute, you can curate that and you can get attention that way. You can get your organic reach that way. But at the core of it on LinkedIn, what I would do is I would create once a week a video, set a day and time. Let's say Monday at noon, I'll post my video. That would one thing I would do. And second thing, what I would do on LinkedIn is every day I would go and engage with 10 people, means that I go and genuinely show interest and comment on their content. If you do 300 interactions like that in a month, right, you will see that 1/3 will guarantee to interact back with you. So if you need 100 interactions a month, do 300 interactions with other people and they will interact with you. So when they post something, comment on their content, right? And you will be amazed by it, that they will view your profile, they will engage with you, right? And they will genuinely be curious. And this is one of the best ways to build relationships on LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm. Ben, any thoughts?
Sure. Just to reiterate what Scott and Ellie were saying, if you're on Facebook to start, you've got a nice lead into Instagram as well. It's the same company now, so you can set up an ad right through Facebook ads and just check the box on LinkedIn too, and you're on both, right? So it's pretty easy to kind of cover both platforms that way. The other thing I wanted to mention is that when you're doing Facebook ads, you can compare against some of your competitors. So you can set up, 4 or 5 of your competitors and look at what their engagement stats are, and use that as a bit of a metric. Make it a game for yourself. A little bit of a competition. You can look at what they're doing and seeing what's working for them, and cherry pick the best parts of your competitors and use those.
You segue nicely into our next real question. So I'm going to pick up my phone. I'm going to find funny cat and dog videos and memes, like which Ross are you during a global pandemic, and then I'm going to start posting them and just spamming them out into the world. Probably not, maybe one a day, two a day, something like that. And as I'm doing this, how do I know? How do I tell that I'm getting somewhere? How do I tell that I'm getting anywhere along the path of just irritating other people in my social circle? Because that's what all of us think to start with. If I publish too much, I'm going to irritate the living hell out of my friends and family, and my business does not have that big of an audience. So how do I tell if I'm getting somewhere?
This is something that I tell my clients usually, because this is going to happen for you. In the beginning, you're going to have friends and family, and they're going to want to support your business. When you're trying to get your message out about your business, they might not find that as something they want to pay attention to. The reality of it is they're not there to actually support your business financially. They're there to support your business emotionally, where maybe your other audience is going to support you financially. And there's always a growth period involved in it, where if you start with, somebody like myself, Ollie, or Ben, you're going to get a bit of a drop in the beginning, because people may just not be all that interested in seeing your business that much, and they're going to kind of block you out. But through growth, we're going to cultivate new people who are actually engaged in what we do and interested in what we have to offer. And I think that's something that's always very scary for people, because, your auntie's cousin, though she loves you and you haven't seen her since you were 9 years old at the lake, she frankly is probably not going to drive across the country to buy flowers at your flower shop or whatever it may be, right? So keeping that in mind, I always try to remind people about that, because, essentially, there's people in the group that have a high ask in their industry, and there's other people in other industries that may have damaged that relationship with people. So it becomes, oh, that's another post by this person in this industry. Well, they don't want your services anyways. So why, you're not really catering to them anyways. You're catering to the people that you truly want to do business with you. And I think that's why Facebook, created business pages. You can have your personal life still on your personal page, and you can, live your business life through your business page. That's kind of how I've set mine up, and it works good, right? Like, the people on my personal page probably don't follow much of my business stuff, and all the people on the business pages, that's they're looking for that content. So they appreciate what I'm putting out versus the people who aren't.
Okay. Ali or Ben, thoughts?
So basic psychology behind social media is, it's not about you. It's about, whenever you guys consume content too, you say, what's in it for me? So put yourself in your customer's shoes and think that, what the hell are you providing them? Either you're educating them, either you're entertaining them. So what businesses forget about it, that they are like, I don't get a lot of reach, I don't get a lot of engagement. Well, you don't need engagement, because if 5 people like your post and 2 contact you for services, right? Okay, you got 2 conversions there. So sometimes we are tracking the wrong matrix. I always say that if you don't piss off people, then you're not doing the right marketing. So I think so that, based on that principle, that one should stick to always being in that outreach mode. But again, getting back to the example of that, when you go to a club or a bar and you approach someone, you don't just go and just hold their hands, right? So this is what businesses do, that they directly go for an ask. They always asking. It doesn't work that way, right? You need to nurture, you need to educate, you need to entertain, and they will come to you.
Okay. But I want to get paid now. I want to get paid now. Is that not the point of marketing? I want to get paid now.
So that's purely pay to play. That's you want ads. Okay. You want, because the challenge is that Organically, it does definitely takes time. Even if you're really good at it, 30, 60, 90 days, it will get gain some time. There are some alternate ways, Mitch. You can do events. You can hold events like these, right? Okay. You can, so there are some ways you can get out there, but beside paying for ads, there is no way that in the next 48 hours you can have a customer. That's very hard.
Okay.
Or either you're out there knocking the doors.
Yeah, and if you're gonna do pay to play, pay somebody that knows something, because if you go out there right now and start dumping all your money into Google AdWords and you don't have a good keyword set and understand your demographic, you will spend more money than you will ever get back out of it. And the same can be said for Facebook too. You know, frankly, if you don't know, you know, some hashtags with Instagram, or, you know, some keywording is very important in this whole digital advertising thing. You know, just if no one says that in this whole hour, you know, keywording, hashtagging, they're all relatively the same thing. Like you know, here's a good tip. Take your hashtags and incorporate them into the wording that you use within the text of what you're writing. That will increase your keywording, which increases your findability through all platforms.
You said something incredibly important. So I'm going to reframe for a moment, and then I'm going to take us into call it the next phase to help people set up for this. Sales is what I do in the next 30 days to put money in my pocket right now. I can call Jeff, Jay, and Matt, and I'm pointing because where I sit, circle gets the square on my screen right now. I have Jeff right underneath me. I got Jay right under him, and I got Matt right under him. So I'm going to call Jeff, going to call Jay, and going to call Matt. Going to call each one of them each day and say, so I'm a guy and I do a thing. Let's talk. That's me trying to get paid now. Marketing doesn't do that unless you're willing to pay ahead of time, which is converting it from that to a potential sales tool. But that's where you're either shotgunning it out. In other words, I'm going to blast as much of it out as possible and spend as much money as I can lay my hands on to do that. Or I can be strategic, technical, surgical with it. But at the end result for marketing is that it is a repetitive behavior. It is something that must be done on a regular basis. If I don't do that, I'm going to fail. And so just as a personal aside to call it front up for Ali and Scott and Ben's thoughts up until now, the bulk of where I spend, and my budget is actually really little for my business. It's all about engagement and attraction, not in sales. So as a guy that sells intellectual capital, in other words, I work with business owners to help them learn how to do their thing, I actually just spend to get more eyeballs and more potential engagement. I'm not even paying to ask anybody to do anything with me yet, because that's tough. It might very well require this. So for businesses to invest in anything outside of just attracting more attention is really, well, let's use plain language. It's really a shitty thing to do to your business to expect to spend money right now hoping to get a sale when your time would be better invested calling Jeff and Jay and Matt and going, I do a thing, can we talk? And meanwhile, your marketing needs to be almost over here in another place, looking to increase your presence, increase your eyeballs, and doing what it takes to give, in Ali's words, more of what they want, not more of what I need. Right or wrong?
Yeah. People really discount, I think, the amount of, like, how do I say this? Like, how much of your personality reflects in branding to, like, you know, look at Air Jordan shoes. They're their whole own entity within Nike now. And people want those shoes because they want to be like Michael Jordan. They want the attitude, the ability, the you know, the whole package of what he encompasses as a basketball player. And they think when they buy those shoes, that's going to help them, you know. That brand is built off of a personality. And I think that, you know, when people are looking to find, you know, motivation, you know, look at things like that to say, like, how did this larger company build this brand? You know, yes, some things are built off of like a name and a check mark like Nike, but then the whole other half of their company now is built off of a personality. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm not going to screen share it here because I don't want to infringe on intellectual capital from another company. But one I will say to everybody here right now, which is the absolute epitome of this story, and it's one that's been a favorite of mine, a video ad for years. Look up Gerber Knives Hello Trouble video. Gerber Knives shot a video, and it goes back all the way back to 2012, which starts off with Hello Trouble, and you just hear some basic music being played, and it's around a campfire, and it starts to spike up and spiral up, and it's talking about all the things that are trouble, and there's like a shark attack, and there's a cowboy on horseback, and there's all these other things going on, and it's all this narrative. And nowhere in there does this say you need to buy a Gerber knife. But it's done by Gerber Knives to show off, essentially show off that their knives are built for trouble, for when things go sideways on you in a hurry. And yet the narrative, the language, and everything like that, it all speaks to you from an emotive level, from an emotional level, to create an impact where you look at this and you're like, man. And when you're done watching this video, about 2 minutes of it, you want to go out in the woods. You want to go set fire to stuff. You want to go build things with your hands. You want to go get into trouble yourself. And sure as hell, you're going to have a Gerber knife strapped to your hip when you do it. But they never once said, hey, I want you to buy a knife. They said, if this is maybe if it's an integral part of you that's missing right now, we're one of the things that you're going to need to get through a situation like that. And what a powerful narrative to talk about. And so if we do this right, we're going to create an emotional response, which is, I'm here to look for something, not I want to know if you've got something to offer me.
Like, adding when you talk about marketing and narrative building and branding, 98% of the people are not ready to buy today. Not every guy is ready to buy a house today. Not every guy is out there in the market to buy a new car. Not every guy is looking for a marketing firm. Not everyone is looking for a coach. Not everyone is looking for what the hell are you provide or sell. That's why marketing nurtures. That's why the branding and narrative building is so critical. So any work you're going to put in today, when it comes to content creation, social media, organically, you're nurturing your audience for 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, 16 months, 2 years down the road, because that's what you're doing. You're trying to build for future, right? Because people are not ready to buy today, 98%. Now, those 2% who are ready to buy, either you are ranking well on Google, so when they damn search for you, you are there, or either you're paying for ads, right? Okay. Or as Mitch, you mentioned that literally you're picking up the damn phone and saying, hey, this is what I do. Are you interested? Right? Cold calling and door knocking and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Guys, any other thoughts?
Yeah. Mitch and Ali talked a little bit about some concepts, which I think touch a little bit on what we call social proof. Whether that's influencers or pop up on your website or a review in Google, all of those go towards, validating and represent or showing your customer that it's something they should be using if that's the lifestyle they want to envision, or they've got other customers that have had great experiences and they want to have that experience too. So I think that's an important factor.
Mm-hmm.
Don't be scared. That's big. Whether I hear a lot of people and they're like, oh well, you want me to make video content and I'm really scared of that. Everybody else is doing it is too. And the big beautiful thing, like Mitch said, your phone, it does good. You can also do this thing called delete. And if you don't like the video that you made, you could just trash it and try over again. And this thing that happens when you try again, you get better at it progressively. And then you get this thing called confidence. And once you have confidence, then it becomes progressively easier. And I think that's something a lot of people have a hard time wrapping their head around. And then the other thing is, once you've made these videos that take a huge excruciating amount of fortitude to get over that hump, nobody's going to watch them in the beginning. And that is an emotional roller coaster all in itself, because you're kind of like, well, I put all this work and, into it, and it's not really getting out there. People that get large viewerships, they've created content consistently for years. I started a YouTube channel at the beginning of COVID and I wasn't getting any followers. And then now in the last few weeks, I've been starting to climb. So it's like 3 months old and there's 177 subscribers, but I bet you probably 3/4 of them came in the last month and a half. So it took a month and a half for YouTube even to pick up that I'm a blip on their radar, and because there's other people like me out there also trying to do the same thing. Do they make it a week? Do they make it 6 days, or 6 weeks, or, how long are they going to make it? The more content you put out, the more any of these social media platforms are going to reinforce you with. So making content, the more it's funny because making more content, it's very cliche to say, but it is the recipe to winning. Regardless of what it is, it reinforces all your keywording. Like Ali pointed out earlier, you can make a long video and chop it up and make a whole bunch of smaller pieces of content, and it's all reinforcing. But to make the video, if you're not feeling good about it, you have the power to just delete it and start over and try again, because it is daunting. I've made videos where I've tried to walk around outside holding the phone. I've made videos with a stand and a ring light. I've made videos, sitting in a chair, standing, looking at notes behind the ring light, trying to make sure that my eyes aren't like deviating away from what I'm reading, because, half an hour content usually isn't coming right off the top of your head either. So that's a plan all in itself, and probably a whole other Q&A meeting, right? So I think that's the best thing, is just don't be scared. Don't be scared. Yeah, sunglasses could work. People find their comfort. I'll hold a pen, and I'm doing it right now. I got a pen in my hand, right? I'll hold a pen and I'll twirl it around, and it's like that thing that makes me feel comfortable while I'm speaking, and you can't see it right now. I hope that Zoom has helped people just get in front of a camera. We're all sitting here and we're talking, we're doing syndicate meetings, we're doing, networking groups and masterminds and all these things, and you're in front of a camera right now. Everybody's seeing you, yes, you can turn it off, and that's just part of the meeting, but like when you're in front of it, everybody can see you. So is it really that much different from making a video? And then if you have to come see your peers every week at Syndicate, you make a fool of yourself on the Zoom chat, but you don't really have to see all the people on Facebook, but you could just delete that video too. So maybe there's less pressure in making Facebook videos than there is to coming to a Zoom meeting.
Fantastic. So if I can add to that for a moment, Scott, going back here and as for those people that know me well on this call, and obviously when you get to see this on YouTube later, the investment in YouTube has been a 1.5-year process for me. But when COVID-19 hit at the beginning in the middle of March, it went till the middle of April when I started to create a giant pile more content. And in fact, from April 14th till today, I've published almost 30 new pieces of content in 6 weeks. And my subscribers and my viewership shot through the roof. Now, they started to engage more with the stuff that was on there, but I created a brand new set of content, a brand new line of stuff there, because we've also got people that are captive. We might be able to, depending on where you are in the world and what you're doing, but at no other time do we have more of a captive audience than we do right now. So for a business owner, you almost must begin to do something to attract attention, because right now we've never had an opportunity better than it is, where people are largely sitting with their phone in their hands and very little else to do. So if I had to start in our last couple of moments here, right now with my phone today, I want each of you to give me your personal playbook for the next 30 days. You can only start on one social channel, and you can only start with your phone. What would you do for the next 30 days? Ben, I'm going to start with you.
Oh, jeez. Great question. You know what? I struggle with, content creation like most people. So this is a challenge I face constantly. So, for the next 30 days, my goal is to, do more video. It's one that you can put on, every platform, including YouTube. YouTube needs video. So that's the default for me. And it's something that, will capture eyes better. I think you've got motion, you've got a more personal connection to you now. People can, look at, your mannerisms and be able to connect, better with you as a person. That's my goal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ali?
Next 30 days, at least for me too, I would say that create more hooks. I have decent momentum in front, considering the number of eyeballs I can get from the videos and like views and everything. But I have to create more hooks. So when the river is flowing, I can catch more fish.
Okay. Scott?
Okay, so this is my plan over the next 30 days because it's what I'm using with YouTube. I'd rather just share with everybody kind of what I'm doing. So when I make my content, I could make like 1 day's worth of content or multiple days worth of content. It kind of depends on the freedom of my schedule, but the mannerism that I post in, how I post is I've made content the previous day. I post it, I schedule it. Usually that's the introductory video because it's the first one that I'm making, for argument's sake, just to explain to you guys. It's the first one. Before I've posted that video, I've come up with a list of keywords or tags to use for that video. This is a bit of a test too, because of course we're just kind of guessing. Like for instance, I know that I can keyword like a game. I don't play this game, but say World of Warcraft because everybody's heard of it. I could say World of Warcraft tag, World of Warcraft survival tag, World of Warcraft gameplay tag, World of Warcraft survival gameplay tag, right? So I've come up with a list of those varying from 10 to 50, which is my pet peeve with YouTube because you can't cut and copy paste any of this. You got to manually put it all in. Then what I do the next day is before I've posted my other video, I look at the analytics from the day before on the video that I posted. Which keywords were drawing people in, from the search bar? Were there keywords that brought people in from Google? Not to say that I would scrap keywords after 1 day of testing. Maybe it just took, a couple days for it to get going or whatever. But I go through a week's worth of content at the end of the week and I'll see really what keywords are nailing, what videos. And of course, there's different videos. I have, say, a few videos a week that are key interest grabbers. I know my audience really likes these videos. And then there's videos that I'm going to test my waters with as like new content, because when you have a gaming channel, I feel the gaming channel, like a game is only going to stay relevant for so long. And you need to kind of have something else on the back burner that keeps your audience, interested. Basically, yes, I take my analytics and I use that information to repost when I'm posting the next day. I also use I pre-program a lot of stuff, so I'll go and schedule a lot of content on Sundays. It helps me out. I don't like try to do it every day because then it takes up a lot of time every single day. If I could schedule a lot of stuff on Sundays, then that's my plan. But at the end of the month, I'll take a greater look at that analytical number and see what really works. And then I can really apply that for the next month and hit it even harder. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to finish off with one final thought. First of all, make content a daily behavior. In other words, look, touch, taste, and feel. Next, schedule it. Give yourself a time on a weekly basis and start to put the stuff in. It's Sundays, Tuesdays, Thursdays. It doesn't matter what it is. Whatever's going to be the start of your week or the end of your week, you're going to need a spot where you have to dedicate a little bit of time, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, half an hour, whatever it's going to be, and then create what you think, if you don't have feedback, your audience is going to want to look at. Or next, use Mother Google, YouTube, wherever else, wherever you're going to hang your hat, what is popular and relevant in your industry or your style right now? What do people really want to look for? After that, create that stuff to actually reach out and engage on the thoughts for what other people are doing or what your audience is looking for. And lastly, respond to people. Look for other people, make sure to respond and be relevant with the audience that you have. and make sure to invest your time. Now, I will invoke, even with the panel of marketing genius that we've got here right now, I'll invoke that name, Gary Vaynerchuk, right? And he will spend hours and hours every day making sure that he responds, interacts, and engages with his audience. Then again, he gets paid to do that. Well, if we're not all getting paid by our own businesses to literally do that ourselves, what's the point? Every time you get one person to interact, it is your responsibility to re-engage with that person, because as powerful and potent as it is, even if it's somebody you know, to be able to reach back out and just say, hey, here's my time. Incredible to be able to do it with other people, because everybody assumes whoever they're reaching out to, one, knows more than them, two, might be more important than them, and three, the gift you give back by responding is an incredible gesture that leaves them with the impression that you are good people. And if you're good people, I can trust you. And if I can trust you, I may give you my money. So, gentlemen, thank you for joining us. For the audience that's come with us today, a Cyndicate Talks, and this is all about conquering marketing. In other words, being able to get a start to a finish. Everybody that's on here for the panel today is really easy to find, and one of the first places to find them is through Cyndicate. So come and look on any of the major social channels at Cyndicate. You will see Scott, Ben, Ali, and myself regularly engaging with people on there. Come and find our businesses, ask questions, and more importantly, get started today. Do something, anything at all. Do something that you find funny. Do something that you find insightful. Share something that somebody else needs to know about what your business is. But more importantly, start with something today and make it a daily practice, because in 30 days, you can create an impact for your business. And a year from now, the immense amount of leverage that you can in turn create for your business has all started just with today, and with 5 minutes of your time, with the phone that is likely sitting next to you, is in your hand already, or is somewhere within 6 feet of you, because it's never very far, the device. So get after it. Make sure to create and do that. If you need help, reach out. There are resources to work with. Otherwise, go conquer it yourself. And of course, enjoy it while you do it, because the journey is half of the fun in marketing. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us on a Cyndicate Talks. We look forward to seeing you next time. Have a great day, and bye-bye.